Hello and welcome to Content Marketing in the Time of COVID-19. My name is Laura Newcomer. I'm the founder and lead creative at Humankind Copy, and I will be your instructor for this 4-week course. So I want to get us started by just talking about what to expect from the next few weeks. Then I'll introduce myself, and then we'll dive into today's content, which is basically sort of a content marketing 101 overview for folks who may or may not be super familiar with this form of marketing, as well as some more specific tips and guidelines for conducting content marketing during this, really sort of bizarre time period that we all find ourselves in. So in terms of what to expect, we're going to have 4 sessions total, and just to refresh you, the first session, which is the one that you're listening to right now, is Content Marketing 101, what it is, why it matters, and then considerations for how to conduct content marketing during COVID-19. The second week will be all about using data to refine your strategy and website and crafting your customer avatar as part of that process. And then week 3 is all about getting started with content. So we'll talk about an intro to SEO and effective content types, probably with an emphasis on blog posts, because that's a really cost-effective way to start content marketing if you're new to it, or if you're looking to scale back your marketing budget while continuing to participate in content marketing. So we'll look at that. Blog posts are also really repurposable. So I think I just turned that into a verb. So we'll be looking at that in week 3. And then in week 4, we'll talk about email marketing basics and integrating social media into your content marketing and email marketing strategies. And within each week, even though you might not see that here in the titles, I'll always be addressing how COVID-19 might be changing some of these things or informing some of these things, and how to tailor your strategy with an awareness of COVID-19 and all of the changes that's brought on in this space. So that's just a really quick overview of what you can expect over the next 4 weeks. These sessions will each be released on Tuesday, starting on September 1st, so that's the one you're listening to today, and running through September 22nd. These are asynchronous, which means you can watch them at your own pace. We won't be meeting together as a class, but I do very much encourage you to reach out to me if you have questions at any point during the course, in between sessions, right after you've watched a session, whenever. Please feel free to email me at laura@humankindcopy.com, and I will be more than happy to share any insights I might have. So that gives you a sort of general sense of what to expect over the next 4 weeks. And then I wanted to also give you a sense of who this headless person is who is talking to you right now and sharing this information. I think it's really important that you know what my background is if I'm going to claim expertise here, right? So my name is Laura Newcomer. I'm a professional content writer and marketer and a content strategist. I've been working in this space in various forms for over a decade now. I got my start at a content startup in New York City. And there I sort of rose through the ranks on the editorial team and helped grow their audience from 1 million visitors per month to over 4 million per month. Then I moved on to work for a liberal arts college in Pennsylvania. And there I helped raise more than $4 million in 1 year and generated the 2nd highest alumni participation rate in college history, using a lot of content marketing strategies and tools. And then from there, I started my own content writing and content strategy consulting business, Humankind Copy. And that's sort of the umbrella from which I speak to you today. I've worked with dozens of clients over the past, gosh, I think I'm at 6 or 7 years now that I've been running my business. So I've worked with dozens of clients, and they all have their own goals, right? But they tend to center around growing an audience, accurately conveying brand messaging, driving sales, working folks through sales funnels and more. So if it involves words, editorial content, I've probably dabbled in it, if not done a whole bunch of it. And then just to give you a more sense of, like a bigger sense of who I am personally, I also teach creative writing here at CMC and through my side business, Alchemize Studios. And I live with my husband, dog, and cat in Eagle, Colorado. So that's me, that's who will be guiding you through these sessions. And with that, let's dive in. I'm gonna pause for one moment to grab a drink of water. All right. So first things first, what is content marketing? And I just want to say here, if you're already familiar with this idea, it can be really easy to just sort of glaze over. That's not a criticism. I do that a lot too when I'm exposed to things that I think I already know. And so I just invite you to sort of adopt a beginner's mind here, because even if you hear a lot of things that you already know, you might also hear something in a new way, or you might hear something new that you hadn't heard before. And so I just welcome and encourage a sort of open mind as you move through these modules and sessions. And again, this course is designed to be primarily an introductory course, but also to give value to anyone who has a content marketing strategy during COVID-19. So, pardon me, some content might feel like old hat to you, other content might feel new, and I just encourage you to stay engaged through it all. And let's pause here for a moment, and I invite you to try to answer this question for yourself. What is content marketing? And again, you might feel like you're already pretty familiar with this, but feeling familiar with something and actually like choosing out the words to articulate exactly what that thing is can be two different things, and choosing those words can be challenging sometimes. So I'm just going to pause my speaking for a moment and invite you to take 30 seconds and jot down, if somebody came up to you on the street and said, what is content marketing? How would you respond to them? Okay, awesome. So no pressure if you haven't finished. You can always pause this or come back to it. Pardon me. And no pressure also on whatever your answer might have been, because you're not being graded here. Just an exercise to see how comfortable are you articulating your current understanding of content marketing. And now let's take a look at what the experts have to say. So the Content Marketing Institute defines content marketing as a strategic marketing approach focused on creating and distributing valuable, relevant, and consistent content to attract and retain a clearly defined audience, and ultimately to drive profitable customer action. Okay, so that's pretty wordy, but basically what it's saying is a marketing style that focuses on distributing content and building an audience that will hopefully become paying customers, is I think maybe a less wordy way of saying it. And then I've also got another definition here from Neil Patel, who is one of my favorite sources on all things content marketing. He's he's very well known in this space, and I encourage anybody who's not familiar with him to check out his content, because he has a lot of really actionable resources on his various sites. But he defines content marketing as a long-term strategy that focuses on building a strong relationship with your target audience by giving them high-quality content that is very relevant to them on a consistent basis. Eventually, when customers make a purchase decision, their loyalty already lies with you. They will purchase your product and prefer it over competitors' options. So what I really like about his definition is that the emphasis is very strongly on building relationships. And the way I see it, that really is the heart of content marketing. It's using various types of content to build ongoing, lasting, loyal relationships with an audience who is interested in the value that you have to provide them. And in the process, because of building that relationship, you increase the chances that that audience will want to put down money for your product or services at some point in the near or far future. And I think this makes a lot of sense if you think about it just in terms of, our human relationships in our daily lives, right? Like, we're way more inclined to engage with, to trust a friend than we are, to trust or engage with a random person who walks up to us one time on the street and says, hey, do you want this thing, right? So relationship building is, I think, really key here. And then another important thing to stress when it comes to content marketing is my little note here at the bottom of this slide, which is that it works for B2C, or business to consumer, and B2B, business to business, businesses. It's a lot of businesses. So really, this is a strategy that works for pretty much every type of business, no matter whether you sell products or services, no matter whether you're selling to businesses or consumers. And I should say B2C can also be defined as business to consumer. Really, this is a strategy that works for pretty much everybody, which I really love about it. It's very democratic, right? So let's talk a little bit about the forms that content marketing can take. And again, I want to pause here and I invite you to just, use your notes app on your phone or type on your laptop, or if you've got, that old fashioned pen and paper around you. I'm a big fan of pen and paper. Use that and just jot down, what forms do you see content marketing taking, either at your own business, or just as you engage in the digital space. How do you see content marketing showing up? So I'll pause myself for about 30 seconds, just jot down some ideas. Awesome. So answers that I often receive to this question, and some of the most commonly or most common forms of content marketing that I see are things like blog posts, email newsletters, YouTube videos, infographics, ads, ebooks, social media, and so on. But it does not end there. There are loads of forms that content marketing can take. I pulled this list from HubSpot, and as you can see, the sky is the limit, right? I mean, pretty much anything that falls under the definition of content, which is very, very broad, can be used for content marketing. So quizzes are becoming increasingly popular. Surveys can work. Let's see. Q&As, FAQs about products or services, and so on and so forth. I won't read through all of these, but I do encourage you to pause on this slide or refer back to this slide and just see how many forms content marketing can take. And I love this because it's a great reminder that we don't have to get stuck engaging in types of content or with types of content that don't feel good to us or that aren't resonating with our customers, right? So some people just hate dealing with social media, but feel like they have to in order to grow their business. And in some spaces, maybe social media is pretty crucial, but not all of them, right? And there might be other types of content that will feel better to you as a creator or to your team as content creators. And there also might be other types of content that resonate more with your audience, right? So if we continue with that example, let's say you're fine with social, but engagement's not happening. You've tried a lot of strategies and it just doesn't seem like a place where your customers want to interact with your brand. No problem. You've got like 50 other types of content that you can try and experiment with and really learn what does your audience love so you can provide more of that to them. So I just like to look at this list as a reminder that there are so many options available to you. You're not trapped doing something you hate or that isn't working with your audience. You can experiment and find what works for you and your brand and the people you're trying to serve. All right, so let's talk a little bit. We've talked about what content marketing is, but let's talk about the details of, how it's supposed to work. Like, how is this really supposed to serve your business and ultimately serve that bottom line of, helping to fund your business, while keeping in mind that that's not necessarily the only priority that we have when it comes to content marketing or anything else, right? But let's look at sort of what a traditional content marketing strategy is meant to achieve. Typically, it's based on this idea of a customer journey. And so there are lots of different ways that the customer journey is articulated. There are lots of graphics and charts and lists and definitions and lingo and so on. So I'll show you a couple. But I personally really like the simplicity of, again, Neil Patel's approach here. So he breaks down the customer journey into 3 stages: the awareness stage, the consideration stage, and the decision stage. And let's look at these a little more closely. So the awareness stage is when people are just beginning to learn about or become aware of your business, right? So maybe somebody in the Eagle River Valley is in need of a dog groomer for their newly adopted dog. And so they Google dog groomer Edwards CO, right? And then a list of results shows up in their search. They see 1 or 2 that look interesting. They click into them. Let's say it's, doggy groomers, right? We'll go simple. They click in, they begin to, look around on the website of doggy groomers. They're becoming aware of your business at this stage. Then we use the tools of content marketing to hopefully funnel them into the consideration stage, or move them from the awareness stage to the consideration stage. This is the stage at which people are coming to trust your brand. So they might be reading your blog and saying, oh, I really like this brand's approach to the way they handle dogs, right? I like that they try to make dogs feel really comfortable, that they're gentle with fearful dogs. They have all these posts that suggest to me that they know a lot about dog behavior. They know a lot about how to work with different types of dogs. Maybe they know about how to work with my specific breed of dog's hair. So they're maybe learning these things about your brand through your website and the content on the website, or maybe poking around on your social profiles, or maybe they subscribe to an email newsletter, and those newsletters are helping them to really get a stronger feel for your brand, and ideally, if content marketing is done well, to begin feeling like your brand is a great fit for them, their needs, and their values. Then people come to the decision stage. And this is when they'll choose whether to purchase your product or service. And it's all based on those earlier stages, right? So at this point, the decision's kind of already been made, in the sense that it's only if the previous stages were successful that people will get to the point of actually deciding to put down a credit card or money or whatever it might be for your products or services, right? So that decision stage is strongly, strongly predicated on the previous stages. And those previous stages are supported by content. So that was a lot. And I hope that that makes sense. Again, if you have questions, you're always free to email me at Laura@HumankindCopy. And you'll have this recording for life, so you can also refer back to this at any time. So let's look at a more sort of visual way of conceptualizing this idea of the customer journey. This is one of the most common ways that we think about content marketing as it relates to sales. We talk about it in terms of a sales funnel. And this visual of a funnel is very apt because it starts really wide, right? You begin by casting a wide net. So anybody who types in dog groomer Edward CO might land on your page if you're a dog groomer in the Eagle River Valley, right? That's a big group of people, and it's gonna get smaller as they move through this funnel, because some people are gonna land on the page and say, oh wait, like this is actually in gypsum and I really want somebody in Edwards, or oh, they don't specialize in this kind of breed and my dog has really particular needs when it comes to their coat, so I need to just pop out and go find another groomer who does specialize here, and so on, right? So people are going to fall off as they move through this funnel, but it begins wide. Everybody who comes to your site is sort of entering the funnel. Then folks who begin to engage with your content are moving deeper into the funnel. So this is the people who read your blog, who watch a YouTube video or multiple, who listen to a podcast, who download an ebook, who sign up for an email newsletter, right? So these are people who are expressing interest. They're expressing the desire to enter the consideration phase. They're not ready to buy yet, but they are willing to consider. And so that's a particular subset of all of the people who encounter your brand. And then as they engage with your content, more people will fall off. And it's not personal. It doesn't necessarily say anything bad about your brand or your content. It's just the way this works, right? Is people naturally self-select as they determine whether or not your brand is a great match for, again, their values, their needs, and so on. As people move through this funnel, they might become more, even more engaged by doing things like reading testimonials, going to your brand's social media platforms and engaging with the brand there, signing up for and attending webinars, opening and engaging with newsletters and staying on an email newsletter list, checking out product demos or reading customer testimonials. These people are deeper into the consideration stage, right? Like they're really trying to suss out if this is something that they want to invest their money in. And as you can see over on the right, this is when people are moving from sort of knowing your brand or having an awareness of your brand to possibly liking your brand and becoming much more open to considering making a purchase. And then finally, we move to the narrowest part of the funnel. It's going to be a much smaller subset of the people who originally engaged your brand or encountered your brand, pardon me. And they're going to be ready to take action in some way. So maybe they fill out the contact form on your site, or maybe they just go ahead and purchase a product or service because the other stages have been convincing enough for them to feel comfortable doing that. These are your paying customers. And as you can see, that's about 2%. You know, as an industry average, is about 2% of all the people who started out engaging with your website. And that's a really small percentage. And so it could feel deflating to look at that, to say, oh, I do all of this work up here and only to get to 2% down here. But the thing is, those 2% of people are going to be people who resonate with your brand, who are more likely to be loyal customers, who are more likely to refer your brand to other people whom they think would be a great fit for the brand, and so on. And also, 2% is a lot higher than 0%, right? And companies wouldn't be doing this if that 2% wasn't significant. You know, pretty much every company out there, well, that might be a generalization, but the companies with the means and the know-how to engage in content marketing right now are doing it. And they're not doing it just to throw resources at the wall and watch them fall down to the floor and go to waste. They're doing it because that 2% is actually really significant and really valuable. So just to say, don't let that teeny little number feel discouraging. That's actually, in my book, a big success. All right, so we talked through what content marketing is, the forms content marketing can take, and how content marketing relates to the customer journey or the sales funnel. And next I want to dive into the benefits of content marketing. And once again, I want to invite you to pause here. I'm going to set my timer and just jot down, or even, if you're driving or you don't have something to write with right now, just think through in your head, what are some of the benefits that you know to be true about content marketing, or that you think content marketing might offer your business? So I'll be quiet for about 30 seconds while you think that through. Awesome. So let's look at some of these in more detail. And you might have come up with other things beyond what I've listed here. This is just sort of like a quick and dirty snapshot of some of the big primary benefits of content marketing. I think the most important thing, and this goes back to Neil Patel's emphasis on relationship building, is that content marketing shows your customers that you care about them, their pain points, and meeting their needs, right? Because it says your brand is willing to go to the time and effort to create content that adds value to people's lives. And this is a good point, or a good time for me to pause and say, the emphasis is really on adding value. None of the stages of that sales funnel work if the content that people engage with doesn't provide any value to their lives, right? They're not going to continue to engage with your brand in that case. And then it's not necessarily worth the resources. This is a strategy that is best done well and thoughtfully and considerately, and probably is one of those things where if a brand isn't willing to put in the time to do it well, it might not be worth the time, because one of the main benefits is helping people feel like your brand cares. And that means your brand actually needs to care, right? Without that component, we don't get these benefits. So you'll hear me emphasize that idea probably a lot over the next 4 weeks, but I just want to sort of put a pin in that right now, that content marketing is about providing value first and foremost. It serves our brands in the long run, but before that, and most importantly, it's about serving our customers. And right now, that's more important than ever, right? And we'll talk about this a little bit more when we look at content marketing during COVID-19. But people right now, as a collective, a lot of us are feeling fractured, perhaps isolated, stressed out. And so demonstrating care for the people you serve is more important right now than ever. And it's always important, right? So another benefit of content marketing is that it can expand your brand awareness, whether that's on social media or through email newsletters that people forward to their friends and family, or what have you. It just helps get your brand out there on multiple platforms, in multiple forms, in front of lots of different people. And that's always a boon in terms of, expanding the number of people who enter that sales funnel, because that's going to make that 2% of people who buy at the end a much larger number, right? Content marketing also builds customer loyalty, because again, you're showing people that you care about them. You're adding value to their lives. You're providing them with helpful resources that help them make sense of something, or take action in a meaningful way, or what have you. And people are more likely to want to continue engaging with a brand that they know is invested in serving them and in seeing them be and feel successful, right? And again, we can think about the friend analogy, right? Like, you're more likely to go to your friend who has been there for you consistently through the trials and tribulations of your life, you're more likely to return to them over and over again and sustain and invest in that relationship than you might be with, just a person who was kind to you one time on the street. Not to say that random acts of kindness aren't important, because of course they are, but that loyalty is there because of sustained investment in each other, right? And then finally, content marketing increases the chance that people will choose your product or service when they're ready to buy. And we talked about, pardon me, we talked about this a lot in relation to the sales funnel. But basically, if you've shown up and done the work of providing value for people, of helping them feel cared for, of meeting their needs, of addressing their pain points, of creating a sustained relationship, if you've done that work thoughtfully and considerately, then again, the end result is that people are going to be more likely to choose your product or service over, some other random brand's product or service at the point that they're ready to purchase. Awesome. So we are now moving into the stage where we chat a bit about content marketing in the time of COVID-19. So before we dive into that, I just want to pause for a moment. I invite you to pause this recording, maybe step away from the screen. We just talked about a lot of major concepts in a relatively little period of time. So just allow your brain some time to digest that, and then come back to this when you're ready. All right. And whenever you're ready to dive into this question of why is content marketing relevant now, let's start again with you answering that question for yourself. Based on what you already know about content marketing, or what you've just learned about what content marketing is, the forms that it takes, how it relates to the customer journey and its benefits, why do you think, if at all, content marketing might be relevant in this time of COVID-19? Is it still relevant? And if so, why? And again, I'll put about 30 seconds on the clock, give you some time to think about that or jot down some answers, and then we'll move forward with this section. Awesome. So I invite you to share these ideas with somebody else in your business. Feel free to, again, email me and share any ideas you might have, and I'll go ahead and share with you my perspective, again, based on my professional work in this space and my engagement with clients, and also just sort of what I'm reading and hearing from other folks in this space and from research coming out of this space. So let's first just sort of address this question of, is content marketing still valuable in today's climate? And the answer is very much yes. And then to the question of why, there are lots of reasons, and I'll walk you through them now. And again, they're all here on this slide for you to refer back to as well. Number one is that a lot of marketing efforts are going online because many in-person forms of marketing are not currently possible right now, right? So trade shows, events, and other like in-person opportunities for showcasing your products or services might be canceled or on hold. And so moving marketing efforts online is a great way to continue building your brand and serving your customers, even if you can't be doing that in person right now. So we're seeing a lot of brands shifting onto a more sort of online content marketing approach, and for good reason, right? Another part of that puzzle is that online engagement has increased significantly since COVID-19 came into the picture, because more and more of us are spending more time at home, and we're spending more and more time on our devices as more people are working from home or going to school from home and so on. Our relationships with our laptops, our desktops, our tablets, our phones are getting much more involved. We're spending a lot more time on these electronic devices. We're spending a lot more time online. That's just sort of generally true across the board. And so this means that content marketing gives you a chance to meet customers where they are right now, which in many cases is on the internet. So another reason why content marketing is still valuable in today's climate is that people might not be comfortable purchasing today, because a lot of folks are having economic worries, very understandably. Many people have lost their jobs, they're struggling to pay rent and mortgages. And so, any purchase that seems non-essential might be deprioritized right now for very good reason. But you can still use this time to build relationships and to build brand awareness that's likely to pay off in the future. And in fact, there was research published in the Harvard Business Review that found that on average, increases in marketing spending during a recession have boosted financial performance throughout the year following the recession. So there's research that says this really can pay off if you use this time to nurture relationships, to provide value to your audience. That's likely to pay off economically down the road. It's a long-term strategy. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme, and the results might not be seen right away. And so it's important to know that going in so that you don't get discouraged if you don't see results in the first month or even the first 6 months. It doesn't mean that it's not working. It just means that this is a slower burn in terms of marketing and sales, but it's an effective one, right? Another reason why content marketing is still valuable in the time of COVID is that it provides opportunities to engage with your audience and to learn about how you can best serve them now, which can inform a more successful business strategy moving forward. So a lot of people's lives are changing. The things that we might have known about our customers 6 months ago might not necessarily be true today. And so by continuing to engage with our customers through content marketing, especially content marketing that allows interaction from customers, that allows folks to engage with your brand and provide feedback to you about their lives. So maybe, quizzes, social media, YouTube video comments, and so on. All of these places that you're providing content for your audience can become basically useful hubs of data about your customers, about where they are now, what their pain points are now, what their needs are now, how you can best care for them now, which again is important and critical data for informing business strategy as you move forward. And we'll talk a lot more about this in much more detail in the session about developing your customer avatar. Pardon me, I'm going to cough. Excuse me. And the last thing right now is that content marketing can be a great way to keep your team engaged. A lot of companies are finding that they may not be able to be, all hands on deck on the same projects that they were engaged in 6 months ago, because the landscape is shifting for so many of us. So maybe your team didn't have the time to focus on building a robust content strategy pre-COVID. And now, if there's a little wiggle room in the schedule, there might be time to engage your team on creating something that, again, is going to have lasting long-term benefits. All right. So we are moving into really specific, but also sort of general, because I'm trying to make this as relevant to as broad an audience as possible, but some more sort of nitty-gritty content considerations during the time of COVID-19. And I just want to, again, pose the question to you. As you build out a content marketing strategy 6 months into the COVID-19 pandemic, what are some things that you think you should be taking into account as you craft this strategy and as you craft your content? It's a big question, so I'm just inviting that question in right now. I encourage you to keep thinking about this and engaging with this for months to come, right? But again, I'll put about 30 seconds on the clock and just let your gears start turning. What are some things that you should be thinking about when it comes to content marketing during the time of COVID? All right, so again, I encourage you to keep thinking about that. And I'll also sort of seed some ideas with you here in the next few slides. I really like this New Yorker cartoon as sort of setting up this topic. And for anybody who might not be able to see this clearly, it's a bunch of folks sitting around a campfire. There's a ghost sitting with them looking really forlorn. And a woman is saying to Ted, who is clearly just telling a ghost story, "Wow, read the room, Ted." And so the takeaway here and the thing that's relevant to the work we're doing is to read the room, right? We need to be aware of and act in accordance with the fact that times have changed. Things are different right now, right? It sucks in a lot of ways. It's hard. It's thrown so many things on their heads, but we've just gotta accept the reality, read the room, and meet people where they are so we don't hurt the feelings of ghosts or anybody else, right? So how do we do that? I've broken it down into some do's and don'ts as regards content marketing considerations in the time of COVID. So let's run through them. Let's start with the do's. Do, view your customers through a lens of grief. So Mark Schaefer, who is sort of a big name in this space, articulates it this way. He says, how would you sell to somebody at a funeral? And he says that is basically how we should be approaching people right now, because people and again, I'm speaking in generalizations. This might not be true for every single person on the planet or every single one of your customers, but in the vast majority of cases, people are experiencing grief right now because we're experiencing a lot of loss, right? We're experiencing the loss of getting to travel freely, to interact with our friends and families in the way we might have used to go to concerts and big events that we might have loved going to. All of these things, and then even more seriously, some people are losing jobs and so on. So loss is an occasion for grief. And pretty much everybody is experiencing some form of grief. So Mark Schaefer says, how would you sell to somebody at a funeral? And the answer, I hope, for all of us, is that we wouldn't just go up to somebody at a funeral and say, hey, Bob, sorry for your loss. Do you want to buy these this new tie, right? We wouldn't do that. We would come up and we would say, how can I care for you? How can I help? How can I support you during this time? And I think that's really sound advice for how to approach our customers and our audience right now, is to, again, view it through the lens of how can I be of service? And let that be the #1 priority that's more important than money. And going along with that, do fixate on providing value, right? So how can you help your customers now? And this goes back to that, we chatted a little bit in previous slides about the importance of understanding where your customers are at now. And that understanding informs this question of how can you support them with their new and evolving lifestyles? How can you help ease their pain? A lot of brands are, making new products or pivoting their products or services in order to meet their customers where they are now. For example, a lot of apparel companies are now making masks because that's a way that they can meet their customers' new and evolving needs and provide value in the landscape that their customers currently find themselves in. Next one, do pay attention to how you feel when consuming other brands' marketing. So what helps you feel better and what feels offensive right now? Take your cues from your experiences as a consumer and then incorporate those insights into your choices and behaviors as a company and a brand. You know, just look around, see how other brands are handling this, see what feels like, oh, that feels good to me as a consumer, or ooh, that didn't hit the mark, and then adjust your own strategy accordingly, right? I'm not saying just copy and, you know, plagiarize somebody, of course, but take cues from your experiences as a consumer and let that inform your decision-making as a business owner. Do let your community know how you're helping. So this can sometimes be a point of debate in the business world, like should your company talk about, which sometimes gets conflated with bragging about, its charitable giving or the ways that it gives back, or, you know, whatever its philanthropic engagement might be. But overall, the advice in this case is, yeah, let your community know what and how your brand is doing to give back and to support people during this time. Because A, it's important to be giving back, and B, sharing that is really, I think, uplifting for community. It's uplifting to see, oh, cool, they're doing this right now. You know, they're donating to the local food bank or to mutual aid organizations who are helping people who are at risk of eviction or whatever it might be, right? Or, you know, donating masks to frontline workers, and so on and so forth. Be proud about that and share what you're doing, because it helps unite us right now. It helps us uplift us right now. And again, it helps also build customer loyalty if they feel like, oh, this is a brand that has integrity and values that align with my own, right? And then finally, do audit every stage of your marketing funnel to make sure nothing unintentionally insensitive remains on your site or social platforms, right? So if you were having like a flash sale on travel goods or accessories, that might not be the right time now, right? Or if all of your copy in terms of email signups, let's say, again, I'm just sort of thinking in the travel space, is about like, want to get away this weekend, sign up here for tips on how to plan a great trip. That probably needs to be changed, right? So just audit every stage of your sales funnel, go through it as if you were a consumer just randomly encountering and interacting with your website, signing up for your email newsletter, and so on, and just evaluate the copy and offerings that you're making available right now, and make sure it is sensitive and attuned to this moment. Make sure you're reading the room with all of your content that's available to people right now. And there might be other do's, you might have other thoughts here. I welcome those. This is just to get you started, to get those gears turning as you think about your strategy in the time of COVID-19. So now let's also look at the don'ts. And I borrowed a lot of thinking from Rand Fishkin here. Number one is don't fixate on selling or self-promotion. Keep your focus on providing value and empathy. So this is basically just the other way of articulating that idea of how would you sell to somebody at a funeral, right? You wouldn't go up and be super self-promotional. You wouldn't be engaging in hard sales. You'd be providing empathy. So again, just to reiterate that point. Don't feel like you can't talk about anything but COVID. I think a lot of brands feel like it could be easy to digest that message of I need to be sensitive to this moment and feel like you can only be sensitive to this moment, right? And there's, I think, a balance to be found here. Be sensitive to the moment in everything you do, but it doesn't mean be fixated on the moment in everything that you do, right? So you can talk about other things. It's okay to, in some ways, engage in business as usual. Just keep the global context in mind when you're doing that. So again, you're not sort of making any gaffes that might not be relevant or safe or applicable right now. Don't use your platform to feed narratives that fracture your community, right? So we don't, as brands, it's not really our job to be questioning epidemiologists and virologists and people who know a lot more about viral disease than many of us might, right? It's not our job to be sowing distaste or conflict within our communities. You might disagree with me on this, but from a branding perspective, and probably from an ethical perspective as well, you know, these narratives are not serving us right now. They're driving us apart at a time when it's really important that we all come together and support each other. So just again, be mindful of, you know, what are you encouraging your followers to do? And does that serve the broader community, and does it serve the mission of providing real value to people's lives? Don't promote potentially harmful activities such as travel or large gatherings. I feel for all of the event planners in our midst. And the travel industry folks, I can only imagine how hard this is right now. But you know, the science right now says it's just not safe for all of us to be traveling around willy-nilly, and so or you know, gathering in large groups. And so promoting those things is regardless of whether it serves your business, it's unethical and it's dangerous to public health, and ultimately is going to backfire, right? So find other ways to engage your audience that don't involve encouraging them to do something potentially dangerous or harmful. And then finally, above all, don't stop marketing, right? So it's easy if you're a person who's looking around and seeing all this sadness and grief that we talked about in the previous slide. It's easy to feel like now is just not the time for any marketing, right? And now might not be the time for hard selling. That's true in a lot of cases. That doesn't mean it's not the time for marketing, because as we've talked about over and over, content marketing is about providing value to people's lives. So if you're providing value to people's lives and you're meeting them where they're at right now and helping to care for their needs and their pain points and their evolving lifestyles, then as far as I'm concerned, you're doing something valuable for the public as well as your company. And there's no reason to stop doing that. And in fact, again, referring back to that Harvard Business Review study, there are really sound reasons from a business perspective to keep engaging in marketing during a recession. And there are also really sound reasons from a community perspective to keep providing value. So don't feel like you've got to shut down your marketing. Maybe you change things up. Maybe you fixate less on hard sales and more on this sort of slow burn of content marketing, but keep it going, whatever it may be. All right, so we are just about at the end here. Let's sort of sum up some of the key takeaways. And actually, before I walk you through my key takeaways, let me just pause on that previous slide. And again, I'll invite you to just take about 30 seconds and think about what are some of the takeaways that really stood out to you from this this session or this module. What will you be taking away and looking to incorporate into your own content marketing strategy moving forward? I'll give you about 30 seconds for that, and then we'll sum everything up. I'll share a few resources and we'll get you on your way. So 30 seconds on the clock. All right, if you're not done with that yet, I encourage you to finish it up at the close of this session. I'll give you sort of my main takeaways from this presentation. One is that content marketing is more relevant than ever in the time of COVID-19, right? Because it's all about providing value. It's about forging long-term relationships with people and customers. And it's about a slow burn. It's not necessarily about squeezing people for money at a time when they don't have it. It's about building those sustained relationships over time. Number two is that it's essential to tweak your content marketing to be sensitive to the global context. Number three is that awareness of your customer's grief, evolving needs, pain points, and so on needs to inform all of the content that you're creating right now. And again, we'll talk more about this in much more depth next session. And then finally, investing in content marketing now will pay off later. So even if you're not seeing immediate results, don't give up. That's the nature of this beast, but it's still worth doing, and it's especially worth doing well. So you'll see here that I've included a few resources for you, just some links to resources that I find to be really valuable, both in terms of general content marketing overviews, and then also this context of content marketing in the time of COVID-19. So if you want to do further reading, I encourage you to check out these links. And once again, if you've got any questions for me, feel free to email me at laura@humankindcopy.com. And I will, well, I guess technically I won't see you, but I will be coming to your inboxes again next Tuesday with the second module. So thank you so much for your attention, and look forward to engaging with you throughout this course.